Everyone wants to be a better human. Wanting is no great accomplishment. How hard you work is the difference between good and great. Promising and masterful, human and better human. To attain great wisdom, a better human knows they must live a long time. They remember that their body is not theirs. It is a gift from their ancestors. Therefore, they do not poison their roots with intoxicants. They eat to live and do not live to eat. They keep their teeth and hands clean. Their bodies and their minds are kept sharp with daily exercise and contemplation. A better human steadies their nerves by getting enough sleep, but not too much. When their family and friends need them, a better human is always at the ready.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, and we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Better Humanology Podcast. My name is Jared Moon. With me, as always, is Talon Schwam. What's up, Talon?
Hey, everybody.
So we have a lot to cover this week. But before we do that, a few things. This is the Better Humanology Podcast. We have one purpose. It's to make you a better human and ourselves in the process. All right, got that out of the way. If you're new, you now know that the confusion is over. You can rest assured that you'll become a better human over the course of minutes and days and weeks and hours that we're all together. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's hop into the real stuff. Let's go over last week a little bit.
Okay.
You threw down a challenge.
I did.
What was the challenge? Recap it for everybody.
My challenge last week was to greet every single person that you make eye contact with.
How'd that go for you?
It went really well. I'm typically one of these kind of people that do that probably about 75% of the time anyway. I really try and be pleasant. I'm one of those people that, like, you pass by somebody and it's just like, you know, it's hard not to make eye contact. And then if I make eye contact, then it's probably better if I say something because it cuts that little awkward silence of like staring at each other for a second. But I will say that this week, adding the extra 25% of saying something to everyone that I make eye contact with worked out great. I met a lot of people basically in small talk conversations that
Got some new friends, maybe?
No, I mean, not quite friends, I would say, but I did have a lot of conversations about, you know, the football games this weekend at the gym, and, you know, conversations about my daughter when we were at, you know, our doctor's appointment and things like that. So I ended up having a lot of pleasant conversation that probably brightened my day and their day a little bit more.
You know, that whole random conversation thing's probably cut out these days with phones, man. Everyone, I don't know, you sit around in a waiting room or whatever, everyone's on their phone, which was part of my... Oh, I'll give you a quick recap. So me, all you did was made me realize how much I don't see other people. I mean, I do go into public occasionally, but...
occasionally. Jared the Hermit.
Normally, I just stay in my garage, and that's it. You know, no, I'm kidding. I did try it. Only on one outing. I didn't try it, like, throughout the whole week.
Oh, come on.
I'm sorry. There was only one where it felt appropriate, you know, that...
Okay,
and,
only one day that you were feeling up to it.
Someone pulled a gun on me. No,
no,
just kidding. It was
and
fine,
your
man.
kindness of asking them how they were doing just ended the whole thing.
I think that you live in a friendlier area than I do.
Oh,
I'm serious, man. People are not. They're like, why is this person talking to me? That's more the reaction I get when I'm
really.
Yeah. So I don't know.
See, I think you made a good point a minute ago with the phone thing, because I think that's a big thing that I realized that I didn't bring up a minute ago, is that I think I had a lot less opportunities than I probably would have had 10, 15 years ago if I tried to do this challenge, because so many people that I'm walking past or that I see sitting across from me or whatever are looking down at their phones. So it's like it's difficult to kind of make eye contact with people sometimes nowadays.
You like lower your head to like, hey,
I'm here.
Just wanted to see what you were doing.
No, I definitely wasn't doing that.
Well, part of my challenge this past week was going screenless as much as possible, and then penalizing yourself with burpees if you do look at your phone. And I wanted people to set aside a time. So how that looked for me this week is I kind of quit work at a certain time at the end of the day. Then it's all kid time. After that, I'm with my family pretty much until my kids go to bed, you know? And so that was, I designated each time from that time period to be no devices, no phone, no TV, no anything. And actually that worked out perfectly. It was just more of having the discipline to do it. I didn't get penalized with burpees at all, and it worked out really well. Something I may continue moving on. And I want to do, so we're going to do a few new things here this week on this podcast, because one, I'm about to surprise you with, because I didn't tell you about it before we started.
Uh-oh.
I wanted to update you and all the listeners on two different things. So over the course of this podcast, we've tried out a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
And we used to do the approval, disapproval method. And we kind of moved away from that. And really the only reason being I really think is because you and I are fairly smart people, and we're not going to do something that's not good for us.
Right.
And so it was getting near impossible to be like, well, that's disapproved, because I'm not going to like sit around and like do a bunch of cocaine and be like, nope, disapproved, not good for you, you know? So, but
Right.
two things, we tested nootropics, and specifically Alpha Brain from Onnit. And I remember I had a really good experience with it on the podcast, but I ultimately disapproved it because I thought it was a little too expensive to try and, you know, throw into your monthly routine. But I feel like I should come back and say that I do use it more regularly now. I'm on it right now, if you will. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I still don't take it every single month, but I do feel like it's effective. And so I'm using that. This is just kind of a update to past episodes. And then also Wim Hof method. We just went over that one not too long ago. You remember the Wim Hof method with the breathing and all that stuff? There's a bunch of science behind it. So he released an app. And by the way, these things cost money. I get nothing in return for you guys going to buy them. So so this is not like go buy their stuff because I want you to buy their stuff. He released an app for iPhone. It might be for Android too. And it's like $5. It's like $4.99 or something for an app.
Goodness.
But his course online is like $200, and this basically condenses his course down to just a mobile app. And so I've been doing his routine in the morning the last several weeks, and I just wanted to throw that out there, let you know that I've been doing the Wim Hof method every morning.
That's not good enough. You got to tell us how it's been.
No, it's been great. I really enjoy. I think we talked about this on the Wim Hof episode, is like the reason I like the Wim Hof method a little bit more is because there's more of a physiological side to it as opposed to just psychological.
Right.
Like meditation is good and box breathing is good, but I like something, you know, that can kind of balance the two. Give me something psychological and physiological, and I think the Wim Hof method really does that. And I also like the studies and research that are now starting to back his method, and I just think that it's really cool, and it's a challenge because you basically you go through the whole method. If you guys want to know about it, or listen to the Wim Hof episode, because I won't recap the whole method, but you retain your breath for as long as you can after you exhale all the air out of your lungs, and that the time I'm able to do that has just been growing and growing and growing. So it's pretty cool to not really pushing yourself. I don't try to push myself and holding my breath. That's kind of silly, but it's just fun, and I think it's a huge stress reliever, and it's cool to do, and I'm enjoying it. So I just wanted to give some updates, tools that initially I threw out of the toolbox when we researched them. I didn't say they were bad or anything. I was just like, I don't know if I could really fit that in, and now I'm starting to add some things back in. So I mean, that's how this podcast works, right? It's like we bring up all these tools in the toolbox, and you just have something that you can pull out and use, or you could just put it back in the toolbox and use it at a later time if you want to.
I think that's part of getting better is, you sometimes run out of things, that new things you can try. And so if you go back and try things a different way, or sometimes it's just the right time to try something and it just kicks in a different way.
So it's not how many tools you're using, it's how many tools you have in the toolbox that you can refer to.
Sure. And it's how you use those tools, right?
Right. Okay, and now we have to hop into Murph 30. So we had everyone vote. You guys, the double weighted Murph, 40-pound Murph, won out big time, and I lost out big time by that winning. No, it was good. It was extremely brutal, about as brutal as it sounds, doing the Murph workout. And I've been getting some questions on Twitter and stuff, so let me back up just 1 second. So I do Murph every single week. Tal and I did Murph back in February as a challenge for the podcast, and then I randomly said I was going to do it every week for a year, and I just completed Murph number 30. And every 10, I do something special or just to make the workout worse. And so Murph number 30, and the workout itself is run a mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run a mile with a 20-pound vest. This past week I did it with a 40-pound vest. And the only real thing I wanted to point out about the entire workout was I felt fear. And I was actually, before the workout, not like during the workout. It was like I was actually scared to do the workout.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting because
Tell us why.
I've done Murph so many times, so that's never. I think a lot of people can maybe feel some anxiety before a really hard workout, but if you keep doing hard workouts all the time, that kind of goes away. You're not really gonna get anxious or fearful. But I don't know. Before this workout, I was just like, not just that it was gonna suck. I get that. We talked about this last week when I was like, the only real thing that can creep into my mind now with workouts is like injuring myself, like actually getting hurt. And so I think that's what I was starting to focus on at the beginning. Maybe we shouldn't have talked about it last week because it came like what I was focusing on.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to, do something to my shoulders or jack up something. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I did get fearful, but at the same time, being able to step outside of yourself, realizing what emotions that you're feeling, being able to stop and not just be a part of the emotion, but stop and kind of pull yourself away from it and be like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Why am I feeling that? And then after that, you can kind of realize it and embrace it and be like, okay, let's use this. You're feeling it for a certain reason, and now let's attack it head on. Yep. And so I was more excited that it happened, that I was like, oh man, I'm very anxious and like fearful of this workout. And I was able to stop and kind of examine why that was happening, and then utilize it to push through the workout. But the workout.
Wow. I love to hear that. It's like using ultimate mindfulness just to become aware of how you're feeling, and then reduce it just because you became aware of it.
Because to be honest, the workout itself really, I probably could have done it faster. It was not that much more challenging than the normal Murph. I mean, it was, but not from a. Like, I never failed any repetitions. It was just your body, that it's so taxing on your body. So if I would do the push-ups, the pull-ups, push-ups, and the squat, and then I would stop, my heart would just be pounding. Like my body, it was taking a significant toll every set I was doing, but I wasn't getting to muscle failure or anything like that. So I could just tell how much of a toll it was taking on my body. But one thing I do want to point out that I just realized after this Murph is if you want to, like, what I'm calling now, if you want to build bulletproof legs, do Murph. Do 300 squats every single week, because it is literally impossible for my legs to get sore now. Like, it just can't happen. And I'm not saying that to like, oh, look how cool I am. I'm actually trying things now to try and make my legs sore with a barbell and whatnot. It's like they've become immune to responding to any exercise that I'm doing, which I'm also a little concerned about. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, but doing 300 squats a week will just your legs are like immune. I thought my legs were gonna be killing me the next day with a 40-pound vest on doing that many squats, and my upper body is actually absolutely trashed, but my legs are just like, whatever.
Wow.
Moving on.
We need to try another marathon or Higher in Hell and see how those legs hold up this time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm good to go. So another little pro tip for anybody: if you want your legs to never get sore again, do 300 squats a week. All right, man. You want to do some Better Human Bullet time?
Better Human Bullets.
Let's do your.
We need like a sound drop for that.
Let's get producer D in here to throw in something great right there.
So start with mine this week.
That would be awesome.
Okay. So the Talons Challenge this week is not going to be something that will challenge you too much. What it is to help you become a little bit more aware of how technology in some ways is taking a little bit of our humanity away, and you're losing a little bit by spending so much time with technology. So that kind of feeds into what Jared's challenge was, Mental Toughness Challenge was last week. So I want you guys to read. It's online. You'll find it easy. It's called The Machine Stops. It's by E.M. Forster, E.M. Forster. The Machine Stops. And it was written in 1909. But it has a lot of insight about how technology affects just our everyday humanity. It'll take you about an hour, maybe 2 hours to read it. It's not very long.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't get it on Audible, though.
No, can't get it on Audible, but you just Google it. I mean, whatever you use, Bing, whatever. Nobody uses Bing, right?
Yeah,
whatever
you're trying to be like objective to the Google versus Bing. I love that.
Yahoo, whatever you use.
We don't want to discriminate on what browser or search service.
We're not getting paid by Google. Yeah, but it's there. Just The Machine Stops. You'll find it.
Okay, great. I'm gonna read that for sure. And so. Better Human Bullets for me this week. Fitness. So we have a little workout at End of the Fitness we call the Dub Copter. So double unders with a jump rope. A double under is simply the rope passing under your feet twice with one jump. And so what it is, this is the fitness challenge and mental toughness challenge. You'll see why if you do the workout. So you do 10 double unders, and then you stop. Then you do 20, then 30, 40, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. And so it's this ascending and then descending pyramid. The only catch here is if at any point you fail, you have to start over. So if you got to the set of 40 on the way up and you messed up on 38, you have to start back at 10.
You mean like hit your legs?
Yeah, hit your legs, mess up. However you do mess up. And so some people this is a 5-minute warm up. Some people, this is an hour and a half practice in mental toughness. And so either way, get it done. It's one more time. That's double unders. And if you can't do double unders at all, then just do double the amount of single unders.
Okay.
That's not quite as taxing or as challenging, but you'll be jumping a lot and it'll still push you. Or you could just practice, if you can't do double unders, practice double unders for 20 minutes, and that'll be enough mental toughness practice for the day as well. All right, so the Dub Copter. And then no book recommendation. Since Talon's having you do a little bit of reading this week, don't want to load you up too much. I'm actually going to recommend a movie, documentary on Netflix. Are you familiar with Tony Robbins?
I am, yeah.
Yeah. So he has a documentary now called I Am Not Your Guru. And I recommend everyone watch it. I actually watched it a few weeks ago. So what is your opinion of Tony Robbins?
I think he's funny. No. I think he's got a lot of insightful stuff. And I think if you're not somebody that really looks into things about improving yourself, your life, or gaining perspective, then he's a really good place to start.
Yeah, the reason he came up with this, I think he called it "I Am Not Your Gurus" because I feel like he thinks he's been mislabeled for a long time of like this, the self-help guru and all this stuff. And so this documentary actually kind of walks you behind the scenes of what he does with people, the psychological stuff he helps people work through, and it's pretty powerful. It did give me a new perspective of Tony Robbins, because everything I knew about Tony Robbins, I was a little bit, back in the day, I was kind of skeptical just about who he was and what he was doing. But then I read his book, Money, Master the Game. Huge book, but also really good. And he had a lot of good points in there. And I think he has a really awesome mission and purpose of not letting, or curing world hunger. I think it's like a pretty big one. In that book, Money, Master the Game, he didn't take any of the profits. He donated all to feeding people.
Wow.
So all these little things added up to me like, okay, I'm gonna watch this documentary. Pretty good if you're into the becoming better scene. And if you have Netflix, it's not gonna cost you anything other than your monthly Netflix subscription. So why not check it out, right?
Yeah. I'm excited to watch it.
You're not gonna watch it.
I'm excited to watch it. That was one of those ones that I was like, yeah, I'll put it off and maybe next week. Maybe next week. But I think now is about the time.
All right, perfect. All right, before we get into the show, I just going to do one more thing. I got to answer some questions, and I'll answer them relatively fast. I got some questions on the Facebook page, and so I'm going to read them and answer them. Cool?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. All right. Josh says, great ways to work on form review in the garage gym. I've used some apps to review myself and make corrections to Olympic lifts. What do you recommend? Mirrors, videos? I recommend, if you're in the garage, I wouldn't get a bunch of mirrors in there. I would just get an app. I use Coach's Eye. Huddle is also another good one, and then Dartfish is also a good one. The only thing that you're looking for in these apps is making sure that they can slow down frame by frame, where you can really analyze your technique and what you're doing. Pretty easy one.
I don't know. Halloween's coming up, so if you got a bunch of mirrors in your garage, you could really make a really good little, scary house walkthrough for the kids.
That would be awesome. A house of mirrors. That would be. So maybe do get the mirrors. But the reason I honestly say don't get mirrors is because it's not going to help with Olympic lifting whatsoever. The movements are too explosive, too fast for you to even know what's going on. All right. Scott says natural certified organic supplements that work, vitamins, protein powders, etc., plant-based nutrition. So, I don't take, I do take supplements. I don't take a ton of supplements, but when I do, see, I sound like the most interesting man in the world. I don't always take supplements, but when I do, it's Dos Equis.
Jack 3D.
I do try to make sure. Jack 3D was way back in the day. Talon's like the only person with that knowledge. No, so I try to take things that are as healthy as possible. I do a lot of research on the company, and right now the company I'm liking is PureWOD. You can visit them at purewod.com. They just have a lot of solid stuff that's really clean. As far as vitamins, they have like a green supplement that you could take, protein powder. They have a beef protein isolate that you could take. So really, that's a sweeping one. And then I mentioned On It earlier for Alpha Brain. They also are pretty dedicated to have pretty clean supplements, but in all honesty, I haven't looked at their proteins and stuff, so I can't officially recommend that all the way. And then the last question is how to plan accessories into a strength program, exercise selection, volume. And Steven asked that question. So I'm not actually going to fully answer his question because he says he is a one-man one barbell user, and that is what the one-man one barbell update coming out in the beginning of October, first week of October, is all about, accessory work and how to add that in there. So just letting you know, that will be in the one-man one barbell update for 2016 coming in a few weeks. All right, man, I think this is the longest introduction we've had to a show ever.
Let's get it popping.
And it's my fault.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. So, what's the purpose of the show today?
Oh. I love it.
So the purpose...
Jared made it funny.
Yeah, the purpose is purpose. We mentioned this a few weeks ago, right? I alluded to that we would probably have this episode, and now we're actually doing it. And I'm excited. Yep. Excited to do it, man. So, the purpose of having a purpose. I'll let you kick it off, man. Why is that important?
Oh, I feel like for so many reasons. I feel like having a purpose allows you to have so much control over your life. I don't want to get too deep into story time yet because we're just starting, but purpose for me allows me to create like focus on like one thing. I'm one of those people that I'm naturally, I think I probably have ADD. I bounce all around the place. My mind's always wandering and trying to focus on hypotheticals and what could happen and what had happened and how I could do things better or how I can get better. So many different ways, right? Even just now when I'm listing them. But it helps kind of direct me on like, okay, this is what I need to be doing because this is what I feel like I'm meant to do because I have a purpose. As well as it kind of gives me meaning, right? I kind of said meant to do, but it gives me meaning not just on my overall life where I feel like, oh, I've got this to do now, so now I have a reason to live. It's more about I also have meaning day to day. I mean, aside from, of course, the meaning to live with your family, of course, and your friends, and that's a big deal. But it's a purpose in what you do each day as well, and what you work on for yourself, whether that's your occupation or whether that's your hopefully everything that you're doing for your purpose ends up becoming your occupation, right? But no matter what it is, it ends up, kind of taking control and giving you that direction, that meaning, and that feeling of accomplishment if you start doing it.
You mentioned kind of just to summarize, the concentrated effort was one of your points. It can kind of get you really focused on one particular thing. And you actually read a quote, I think several podcasts ago about the was it burning a hole through a piece of wood with a magnifying glass, right? Like,
right, yeah.
If you don't have the magnifying glass, you'll never burn a hole in the wood. The sun will shine on that piece of wood for 1,000 years and never do anything. But if you have the magnifying glass, aka the definite purpose of what you're doing, you're going to burn a hole in the wood. And I wanted to read, so I recommended this book a while back, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. And it's a big part of that book, and that's not necessarily where all this is coming from. Having a purpose is just kind of a good thing to have in life, but I like this book's take on it. And one of the things that it points out, I actually won't read this part, but it's just saying that because the reason I won't read it is because it's like really out of date, his language and stuff. But if you were to think about like if all mankind got together and say we wanted to cure a specific type of cancer, maybe it's breast cancer or something like that, or
sure,
or brain cancer, and then it was like, this is what we're doing as mankind. This is what we're doing. All the doctors and scientists and anyone, like, that's what we're focusing on. We'd probably solve cancer in about 48 hours. It's just when that many people are concentrated on one thing, that's what happens, but that's not how the world is allowed to work, but that's how you can and are allowed to work in your own life. You can concentrate your efforts on whatever the hell that you want to.
For me, I think something that's really important when it comes to thinking about your purpose is that finding your purpose is really all about feeling. For me, I think that's what it came down to the most. That I feel like I learned the most. But I spent my entire adolescence like thinking, oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to do when I grow up? What do I want my life to look like, to be like? And all that time's wasted, really, because it's really thinking about hypotheticals, like I talked about earlier, something I do anyway. It's thinking about, oh, it could be like this, or it could be like that, or I could have a great time doing this. But what it really comes down to is that gut feeling inside of you. I mean, really, I think intuition matters more than logic when it comes to finding your purpose. Because you could try several things over and over and over if you're not thinking about, or not trying to find that feeling inside. When you're looking for your purpose, if you're just like, this will probably make the most money, or, this will probably be the least amount of time that I have to work, I can spend my time doing this or that, then you're probably not going to find what you really are meant to do.
And I wrote about that. Actually, I don't think it's ever been publicly published. You wrote
about it in your journal.
I know I've mentioned to you before, but the doctor-lawyer syndrome, is everyone
Prestige.
thinks, a lot of people think they want to be doctors or lawyers, and yeah, maybe they selected that for the prestige, maybe they selected it because the income is decent, but they have no interest in medicine or law. It's just, it's kind of ridiculous that people do stuff like that sometimes. But one thing that I like to point out when talking about purpose is you did mention, oh, maybe I'll do this because it makes the most money.
Sure.
It's just the difference in goals when you have a purpose versus goals when you don't, because an outcome goal is essentially, I want to make this much money this year or whatever.
Okay.
Or I want to lift this much weight or do this thing. That's the outcome. And that's typically how you should set goals, but goals are not very satisfying by themselves. And so instead of an outcome goal, I think it's a lot healthier mentally. This is something I've been trying to focus more on lately, is setting a process goal. And that is getting comfortable with the process and dedicated to my mission and my purpose, and just working on that on a daily basis, as opposed to getting so attached to the outcome. So just the goal would be, I'm going to work on this for 3 hours today. That's the only goal, and I'm going to do that every day, for a year, as opposed to, well, it should result in this at the end of the year. I mean, you can still set that goal as a metric or something you need to track where you still know which direction you're headed. But as someone who, has set goals and achieved them, as we all have, I don't find them very satisfying when I achieve them. I mean, I immediately am looking for the next thing. What's next? How can I do this bigger? How can I do it faster? How can I do more? And it's very, I think long term could be very damning mentally if I don't focus up more on just being happy with the process as opposed to the outcome. Because say I meet every goal I've ever set, and I'm still not happy. What's left for me?
Right.
It's good to be, ambitious and want to keep pushing on and keep going. But if you're not happy with the outcome every time, or you're always looking, you're like, I got to push it further or harder, even though I accomplished that, you're not fulfilled.
I think it's such an important point that you're making, and it's like, appreciate the journey more than the destination. And I think the analogy that we used when I read that quote a couple of weeks back, where the sun rays are burning the hole in the wood, that process, is the purpose, right? Because how long is it going to take to burn that hole in that wood? It's going to take a while, right? But the process of burning the hole is the purpose, not the hole getting put there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you embrace that, it's like Jared's talking about, when you embrace that the purpose is accomplishing the goal rather than the goal itself, then you're that much more happy while you're accomplishing that. You feel fulfilled while you're on the way to it, instead of feeling like you're behind because you aren't at the goal quite yet, or feeling like you could be doing so much more. If you're in the midst of the process, then you're doing your purpose right then.
I think what I love about one thing I want to say before we go further into that is, this is not easy. I do not think this is an easy thing.
Oh gosh, no.
To be honest,
we're making it sound easy, aren't we?
Yeah. Let me back up to that, because I don't think that I really got comfortable or clear with a purpose for myself, my business, and getting that all lined up until more recently. When things got way more serious at Into 3 Fitness, I had to have some greater purpose, something I could work towards, and it couldn't just be more. I couldn't just have the more goal. More is not a fulfilling goal for me. Maybe it is for some people, but more is not fulfilling for me. I care very little about possessions and things and any of that crap. So anything is typically bad for me. But that's how a lot of people set their goals and gauge themselves. So, but I've known that it would be helpful to have a purpose for several years.
Okay.
But probably didn't get clear on it until this year.
Really?
Right. And I've been actively thinking about it, but I couldn't, because it's not something that you can take from someone else. It's not
that was the point I was going to make here in a minute.
Yeah, you can't take it from someone else or ask for a suggestion, or you can't really get help on it. You can just get nudged in the right direction, and then your mind kind of has to, like, you have to figure it out for yourself.
Right.
And I think one of the what clicked with me, and this was several years ago when I read, I think it was Think and Grow Rich, or maybe it was Laws of Success, one of Napoleon Hill's books, because he talks about this concept a lot. And he says in the book something along the lines of, you may be hearing these words, but you're not ready for it yet. Something typically like that. And I was like, shit, I'm just not ready. Because, like, I don't know what my greater purpose is or what I should be doing or working towards. And yeah, so I was just confused. And like I said, I didn't get clear on that till more recently.
See, I think it's something that it's still kind of coalescing for me, right? I don't think I would say that my purpose is totally defined right now. I think I'm still a little bit in the midst of it, but I think I'm definitely getting closer there. I think the biggest problem for me was that, just like you talked about, is that others can't define your purpose for you. I think that's so profound. I think I spent all those years in my adolescence and all those years in my early adulthood thinking, okay, well, somebody else said this was a good idea, or somebody's opinion that I really care about, that really matters to me, thinks this is something that's important to do, or an important reason to live, or an important, mission to accomplish to help humanity or to better yourself or whatever it is. And I think I always assumed that was what I should be doing, whatever sounded good to someone else, whether it's, my best friend or my dad or whoever it is. And I think you're totally right. What it comes down to is finding it within yourself. And that's not an easy process. That's something that for me, and I think I'm getting towards the end. We'll see you here before the end of this year. But it takes, for me, a lot of self-reflection. And I think it's realizing that my dreams have to be my own. They can't be influenced by others. They can't, not even a little bit. Like, because if it's even something that somebody else suggested, then it doesn't come from within me. It doesn't come from within my heart, what I really want. And it is hard to find that, but it just takes time. It takes time thinking about it. It takes time searching that feeling that you get while you're thinking about it or while you're doing what you're doing. And so, something else I think is really important is I've tried things that I thought was my purpose already. I've tried, I thought, well, this maybe is my purpose. And I think I had the good feeling there already. And it turns out maybe it wasn't my purpose, right? And that's okay. I really feel like that's going to happen. I think if we, I really liken a lot of things to fate, something I do believe in. I think when we talk about purpose, it does kind of come into the conversation a little bit, just the concept of it. But I don't think within that concept that we're fated to do one thing. It's not like, when the people say there's one person out there for you to marry or whatever. I don't think there's one occupation or one job out there for you, to be ultimately happy. I think there's probably, several things, dozens of things that you could be doing. And it's not necessarily, finding that one. It's finding what feels right for you to be doing and what feels like it's going to make an impact and make you feel fulfilled.
And the thing I love most about having a definite purpose is it becomes a litmus test for anything that you do. And so if anyone out there is unfamiliar with the litmus test, so it's basically just a test, almost like a marker, a benchmark that you can ask yourself or test against, compare to before you do things. And so instead of explaining it all confusing like I just did, it's more like if your litmus test for your next job is it has to make me want to study about it all night or something like that. That's a litmus test for your career, right?
Right.
And so if you're in a career where you don't feel like studying and getting better at it all night, then that's not your career for you. So that's what a litmus test is. It's kind of, and that's what having a purpose, is. So it helps you make better, quicker decisions further in life. So you have these, you have all these points in life where you have all these opportunities, and the more opportunities you get, you're going to realize that you have to be careful about what you say yes to. It's probably more important that you say no to the right things. And it's going to be really hard to say yes or no to different opportunities or different paths you could take if you don't have some sort of, there's guiding purpose, something that, you've already set in stone with yourself, and it's going to help you make, like I said, better decisions faster.
I think we made a really good point. Is if you're doing what your passion is or what your purpose is, and it's making you want to do things to further that, like you say, study all night for a job you're doing, and really what that comes down to is like excitement, right? You feel excitement, you feel enthusiastic about the potential of doing that job or actually doing it, and that I think is something that it can be tricky. I think oftentimes you can be going down the wrong road and still feel a lot of excitement or a lot of enthusiasm. I think you make a really good point, but I say fulfilled, and that's a harder emotion or feeling inside your gut to understand. I mean, a lot of times I'll get excited like, oh man, like that's how it's been for years. I'll be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm really excited about it. This is the right, this is the right company name. This is the right direction. This is the right place that I'm going to go to. I'm super excited. I'm enthusiastic. I'm doing a lot of work for it right off the bat. But then it comes down to, maybe a couple days or a couple weeks or a couple years later, it's not making me feel fulfilled, or I can see that it's not going to. And that's something hard to nail down. I know I say it so often, but it really comes down to searching your thoughts and your feelings more. If you're not thinking every, second that you get an opportunity to about, just about everything, and especially if this is what you're still looking for in life, then you're wasting it. I mean, you should take that time to make sure you're on the right track and make sure you're doing something that makes you feel like you have a place in this world, and that you are filling that hole and not just letting it go by.
And some of the examples I wanted to give, just kind of this, having this ultimate goal. So I'll say one more time, I highly recommend everyone read The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill or Think and Grow Rich, because they really talk about this stuff. And it's just having a definite aim and purpose in life, and then also either writing what that purpose is every single day, or at least saying it to yourself every single day when you wake up and when you go to sleep. That's dedication. And when I read that, I was thinking about where in my life had I ever done something or had that much concentrated effort. And when we were in college, freshman year, I set the goal of getting selected to be a part of the Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program, INJEPT, which is a selective program. And
very selective.
And so that was I didn't know any of this at the time. This is all, retrospectively, but that was my definite chief aim and purpose for college for those 4 years. I was told about it freshman year. I knew that's what I wanted. And it was also my litmus test. So it was, college, like, are you going to get drunk tonight and go driving around? It's like, nope, that could hurt the chances of me, getting selected for INJEPT. It's like, okay, well, are you going to go work out today? Yes, that could help my chances of getting INJEPT. Like that was almost how every decision was made, whether I was like, that thought was in my head every single day. And, if I was deciding to do something or not do something, that was always my litmus test. Is like, well, this is what I want. Will that decision move me closer to getting that or further away? If it was ever further away, then I wouldn't do it. And so that was, and so that's probably in the short term, because it's not like a life purpose, but like that was a 4-year purpose. And I think that's probably the most dedicated I'd been to something so far. I'm probably much more dedicated now to what I'm doing than I was that. But I think that's probably the most dedicated I've ever been to anything.
I wish I had known this when we were in college. Man, I would have had so many good, like so much better excuses and like arguments for you for why we should have gone to those parties freshman year or whatever it was, Man, you're just bringing out bangers tonight. I think you make a really good point about writing it down every day. I'm not one that wants to like have schedules and something you're glued to every time, but when it's your purpose, that's what you should be glued to. I mean, other than spending time with your family, that's what you should be spending your time doing. It's something that you love, that you feel good doing, and that you find fulfillment in doing. And so writing it down every day makes your day about that, right? It makes every day about that. You don't have the opportunity to say, yeah, well, I'll work my purpose tomorrow, or I'll work on this tomorrow, because, you know, one, you probably don't feel like that if it's your true purpose anyway. It's probably not your true purpose if you feel like that. But two, if you're writing it down right when you wake up, like, hey, I want to be president of the United States, boom, or whatever it is, you know, you're writing it down. It makes that day, like you said, it makes you think about, okay, what things are going to get me closer to accomplishing this goal.
Yeah, because I worked on into 3 Fitness. I worked on the side for a long time, so there was never like I couldn't dedicate my whole day ever to just like working on that on my business, you know. But if you could at least do one thing, you know, to like always have it in the forefront of your mind, and I think that's what writing it down does. Is it just you can't hide from yourself. You said like, oh, I'll work on my purpose tomorrow. If you wake up first thing in the morning, and this is actually what I do every single morning now, and I write down what my purpose is, then it's just part of my morning routine. There's no like, oh, well, maybe I'll, you know, kind of slack off today or do something else. Like, no, I know what I'm doing. Like, this is what I'm doing. And so everything I'm doing that day that goes on the calendar has to do with that, or it doesn't happen.
What do you write down?
So yeah, we're the elephant
Share
in the
it with
room,
us.
right?
Yeah.
And so essentially, to simplify, my purpose is not going to be big surprise for anyone, is to build better human beings.
Okay.
That is, I mean, to my core, that is what I'm dedicated to doing. And the reason it seems like, you know, like that's been what Into 3 Fitness has been about for a long time. That's what our podcast has been about for a long time. But I've never really considered it my purpose until we got more into it. Because I think that's the umbrella purpose. Like I do narrow it down to being a little more specific in how that works into my business, and how that works into my family, and how that works into raising men, you know, and being a brother and being a son. Like, I just feel like it transcends every part of my life. And I really feel like that's what I was meant to do. And, ultimately that is my purpose. And I think anyone who follows Into 3 Fitness is going to see a lot more of this play out, starting next month and moving forward. So next month is the 5th year of Into 3 Fitness's existence. And I'm going to make the mission and vision of the site a little more clear about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And anyway, I mean, I think I just got real clear on it a few months ago, but it still kind of was, I don't know, what, festering in my brain, you know, like cooking, you know, it just kind of kept, I was like, I need more clarity on, I wanted numbers, I wanted it to be real concrete, and that's what I got, man. So that's what basically everything centers around now.
Something that you kind of remind me of is like Steve Jobs, not the best human out there, right? He's got many flaws, but a guy that like...
I'm glad I remind you of...
No, at least in this sense, where, you know, he was in college, right? This is a story of several successful people. They're in college, they feel like their life's going one direction, they have something they want to do, they've planned to do most of their life, and then, you know, like, bam, they wake up and it's like, okay, you know, I'm not following my purpose. My true purpose is something else. It's this. And for him, it was starting Apple, right? And really defining a direction for him. And, you know, he probably wasn't the greatest at it for a long time. I don't know if there's several movies out there. I'm sure there's several books out there, but I've watched about every movie that talks about Steve Jobs in it, because I think he's a pretty interesting guy. But he wasn't doing great at first. He realized this is what was going to be his future, and it was going to be the future for mankind, and to make a difference in humanity. But he wasn't able to do that immediately, right? And like, you know, you said it took you, you know, a few years, really just this year, to really define that, what it is for you. And for him, it took several years to get, you know, the vision fully, you know, concrete in his head. And I think that's typical. I think that's something I'm probably hitting right now a little bit, is even though I think I know what my purpose is right now, it's just about doing it. You just have to do it. And if you suck at it for a while, it's okay, because that's how doing anything is. Even though it's your purpose, it doesn't mean you're going to be awesome at it right then. You know, that doesn't mean you're going to be, just because I decide that, hey, I'm going to be in the NBA, doesn't mean I'm Michael Jordan tomorrow. right? There's still work that it takes to get there, and there's still steps. Just like, the first time you point that magnifying glass at that piece of wood, it's going to look like nothing's happening at all. It's going to be like, dang, is this even burn it even a little bit? It's going to look like maybe I should stop trying this for a few minutes because nothing's happening at all. And it comes down to persistence. And I think we've talked about these kind of topics on our show before. So you can backtrack a little bit to get there if you want to get some more information on those. But just keep that in mind. If you are just starting, you just decide or you listen to this podcast and you're like, all right, you know what? It's time to go ahead and jump off the ledge and go ahead and start doing what I want to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing. Well, it's okay. It's okay if you're not the best at it immediately. It'll take a little bit of time for you to get better, and that's normal.
Yeah, and because building better humans to me 3 years ago probably only meant, or 5 years ago, let's say when I started, probably only meant, lifting a barbell or running faster. But now, as I grow and mature, I still obviously think that that's very important, and it's a huge part of who I am and what I do and what I'm interested in. But that's why this podcast goes in so many different directions now. It's because there's so much more to becoming better. I had to fall forward, or should I say fail forward, over and over again to refine what that actually meant to me. So from the outside, it probably doesn't look like much has changed, but to me, everything's changed because everything is so much more important and means so much more now. But that's what achieving this, as opposed to a number goal of, say it was a financial goal or something, that's how I used to set goals for everything. Save this much money or do this or whatever. And it was never really motivating. Even when achieved,
Right.
It wasn't motivating.
It just it's easy to track, right? But it doesn't give you that feeling that we're talking about, where it's like I can almost hear in your voice where you're like, that's when everything changed, Like I can like hear it where you're just like, okay, well, this is, you had the feeling, right?
Yeah.
It overcame you. That makes me feel good.
So what are you working towards, man? You gonna share with us tonight?
Yeah, I'm working on launching kind of a total human improvement kind of company. Yes.
Okay, that's all you want to share tonight?
That's all I'll share tonight.
Okay, something people can look forward to. I do want to say, I've mentioned those books multiple times, but I do. So I said building better humans, and that's a very like I said, umbrella statement. Because if I am a numbers guy, I'm a practical guy, and then I do challenge people to track it, because I mentioned when we first talked about purpose, we just mentioned it on one of our other podcasts, and I was like, you can't just say being a father is your purpose, and you can say that, but to me, it's almost it's hiding. It's almost because you have to be if you have the kid. Like the only difference is whether you're a good father or a bad father at that point, and the reason I'm saying father is just because in our context, right?
Sure.
You can mother or whatever. So you have to do that. Do you want to dedicate all of your time to being the best at that? That's different. That's perfectly okay if that's your purpose. I'm just saying that's different than just giving a cop-out statement that you think that you can come up with in 5 minutes. It's okay for this to take a really long time. And, likewise, in that book, they mentioned a lot of people. He said that he had interviewed, hundreds of people or whatever, and a lot of people jumped to, I want to, make a lot of money by doing something useful, essentially, is what it boils down to. And he's like, what the hell does that mean? Like, that's, you need to write it out, like, what's something useful, like, how much do you want to make, like, get real, like,
specific,
almost like a vision statement for your life. What does it look like? Where are you at? What do you have to do? What do you have to achieve? What are the goals? What are the milestones? Something you'd probably love, Talon, is like sitting down and writing a paper about that vision statement and what all that stuff looks like. And I just challenge people to take it very seriously and go in as in-depth as they can. Don't sit down for 30 minutes and then, because what you will come out with, this is what I used to do. Maybe that's why I'm saying it so much. This is what I used to do, because like I said, I've known that I needed or wanted one for several years, right? And so I'd sit down and come with cop-out answers like that. Like, yeah, I'm going to be the best father I can be. It's like, well, no shit, you're gonna do that. You try to be the best at everything that you can possibly do. So you're gonna try to do that, but that can't be your only purpose. So I feel like if I set something broad enough, everything will fit inside of it. And yeah, just think about it. It's gonna be a long process.
Yep. Self-reflection, contemplation. That's what we said off the top, and that's what it's going to require. I want to throw out, you talked about being a number guy. I just want to throw out a couple of numbers here because I guarantee that most of the people listening to this show haven't defined their purpose yet. And so looking on and trying to find the stats for, how we can wrap our heads around people that have found their purpose in the world, I found that only 31% of Americans and 13% of the world report that they're fully engaged and enjoy what they do for a living. I feel like that's really profound. I feel like
it's hurtful.
Yes, it does. It does hurt. I mean, it's probably a little bit obvious. I mean, I don't think I would have guessed that those numbers would be quite so low. I would have said like 50% of Americans and like 25% of the world. That's probably what I would have guessed. But man, those are profound numbers. Those tell me that most of the world is really not fully happy in life because they're not doing what they really meant to be doing and what they would really love to be doing. Because that feeling that we talked about, that I mentioned several times down the show, that feeling of being fulfilled, doesn't matter if you're having if you're in the greatest relationship or marriage of all time, or if you have the best family or the best friends or the best social life or whatever it is. You can have the happiest life on the outside, but if you are not following your purpose in life, if you haven't found it yet and you're not doing something you love to be doing, then you're not truly living your life to its happiest potential, to its fullest potential. There's still so much missing still in your life, and if you're listening to the show, then you absolutely know what I'm talking about right now, because you might have such an awesome family life. Like I have an awesome family life, but something is still missing. That's why I've had to try and find that purpose, because I know once I find that, then I'll feel fulfilled. And
like I said, the litmus test. And so what you're saying is perfect, but I do want to make the clarification that it doesn't mean that you have to go. You don't have to go do your own thing. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have
that's
to.
True.
To follow your passion, like for instance, building better humans, right? I mean, it's very broad, the umbrella statement there. But say my business Into 3 Fitness failed tomorrow, just got shut down by the government or something, that and say I didn't want to start another business, and so I guarantee I could go find a job that someone else is offering that fits with my purpose. I might not be making all the decisions and be 100% in charge or whatever, but ultimately I'd still be following my purpose, my goals of making people better.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think I talked about being specific with maybe the goal is to reach your purpose or something like that, but I think making your purpose broad enough to where that it really fits what you're meant to do, what you feel like you're meant to do, what offers you that fulfillment. At the same time, there are several avenues to accomplish those kinds of things. There always are. That's why I said redirection is just fine, because it doesn't mean changing your purpose. It just means changing how you're going to get to it, or how you're going to complete it, or how you're going to find the goal at the end. The cauldron of gold at the end of the rainbow. I mean, it doesn't matter necessarily how you find it. I mean, as long as you enjoy the route into how you're getting it. But it doesn't necessarily matter. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the road less taken or the road more taken.
Yeah, I mean, why do famous actors and actresses and CEOs and wealthy people who seem to have it all commit suicide, or why are they depressed? And you're not after things like. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone is. I think everyone thinks that that can make them happy, but it's just not. So that brings the whole all the way back to the don't go for the outcome goal, go for the process goal, be fulfilled in what you're doing on a daily basis. Fulfillment is the goal, not what you just said, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
That's right.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this podcast. talking about purpose. If you enjoyed this episode, head over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and a positive comment, and we will bring more conversations like this to you on a weekly basis. But until then, thanks for listening. Peace.
Your best. Losers always whine about their best.